Good morning po sa lahat ng manunood ng Museo Bulawan official YouTube channel. Sa araw pong ito ay tatalakayin natin ang Quincentennial of Christianity and Development of Bicol Churches. At ang ating panauhin sa araw na ito ay walang iba kung hindi ay si Most Reverend Rex Andrew Alarcon and Bishop ng Archdiocese of Daet. Sit back, relax, enjoy and learn. But before we start, let me introduce to you our dearest speaker, Most Reverend Rex Andrew Alarcon. The Most Reverend Rex Andrew Clement Alarcon, D.D., was born on August 6, 1970 in Daet, Camarines Norte. He is a prelate of the Roman Catholic Church in the Philippines. He is the Bishop of Daet with its seat at Daet, Camarines Norte. He succeeded Most Reverend Gilbert A. Garceret, D.D., who was appointed Archbishop of Lipa in 2017. The bishop born to Juanita C. Clement and the late Armando A. Alarcon on August 6, 1970 in Daet, Camarines Norte. Finished his grade school studies at the Naga Parochial School. He then finished his high school education and philosophy degree at the Holy Rosary Minor Seminary. After being ordained to the priesthood on November 9, 1996, he attained his licentiate and master's in theology from the University of Santo Tomas. After ordination, he served as parochial vicar at the St. John the Evangelist Metropolitan Cathedral and Parish in Naga City, and professor formator at the Holy Rosary Minor Seminary until 1997. From 1997 to 1999 he served as secretary to then Archbishop Most Reverend Leonardo Z. Legazpi, OP.D.D. From 1999 and 2001, he studied at the Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, Italy, where he obtained his licentiate in church history. Upon his return, he became a professor at the Holy Rosary Minor Seminary. Since 2002 he has been the director of the stewardship program of the Archdiocese of Caceres Spark. In 2007, he was appointed as the fourth director of his alma mater, the Naga Parochial School. Concurrently, he also served as president of the Catholic Educational Association of Caceres and Ligmanan, as well as the Bicol Association of Catholic Schools. In 2013, Archbishop Rolando J. Triatirona appointed him superintendent of the Catholic schools of the Archdiocese. He also served as a member of the College of Consultants, and spokesperson for the Archdiocese. Since 2016 he has been chairman of the National Advocacy Commission of the Catholic Educational Association of the Philippines. After 22 years as a priest of the Archdiocese of Caceres, on January 2, 2019, Pope Francis appointed him as the fourth bishop of the Diocese of Daet. He was ordained bishop on the Feast of Saint Joseph, March 19, 2019, at the Naga Metropolitan Cathedral, with Most Reverend Adolfo Tito Iliana, D.D., Apostolic Nuncio to Australia, and Most Reverend Manolo A. de los Santos, D.D., Bishop of Dirac, as principal co-ordained ng prelates. Apostolic Nuncio Most Reverend Gabriele Giordano Cacha STD, JCL, D.D. represented the Holy See. Bishop Alarcon was installed a day later on March 20, 2019 at the Cathedral of the Most Holy Trinity, and was attended by some 2,000 people. In May 2019 he joined the second batch of Philippine bishops who went to Rome for an ad limina visit to Pope Francis. At ngayon ating pong pakinggan ang lecture ni Most Reverend Rex Andrew Alarcon tungkol sa Quincentennial of Christianity and Development of Bicol Churches.
Ang aking pagbati sa ating mga kababayan dito sa probinsya ng Camarines Norte. Ako po ay nagpapasalamat sa paanyaya ng Museum Archives and Shrine Curation Division of the Office of the Governor sa paanyaya ng magbahagi ng kaunting kaalaman at pagninilay tungkol sa ating kasaysayan, kaalinsabay ng ating pagdiriwang ng 500 taon ng Kristyanismo sa ating bansa. And sa pagkakataong ito, it is good to look back sa mga salita ni Steve Jobs, in order to connect the dots. The 500-year celebration of Christianity allows us to appreciate and to review this gift of faith which we have received. And ang aking pagbabahagi, ito ay hindi lamang para doon sa mga, of course, syempre, sa ating mga Kristiyano, tayo nagpapasalamat, kahit even to those who do not share our faith. I remember there was a time that I was invited to be part of the board of judges doon sa Naga, and we were supposed to judge the monument which was supposed to be for the pilgrim city, because Naga was declared a pilgrim city. But when I was reading the criteria, napansin ko that there was something wrong, because in the criteria it said that there will be no use of a religious symbol. However, it was to be a monument for the pilgrim city of Naga as the seat of the devotion to the Lady of Peñafrancia. Well, as it turned out, during the judging, yung mga na-submit na mga design, pati na yung nanalo, there was nothing about the devotion to the Lady of Peñafrancia. It is not even representative of the devotion. And therefore, it is when we look back into history, for example, when we look back into Christianity, we cannot deny the fact that it was the Christian faith that came. So that to those who may not share the faith, it is to look at it from the point of view of culture and history that I invite you to look back into history. Yung ating pagbabalik tanaw sa dun sa first circumnavigation of the world, the Magellan Elcano voyage, brings us back to the religio-political situation of the 15th century. No? Matatandaan na ang mga tao noon, ang akala nila the world was flat, and it was the earth that revolved around the sun. But because of the discoveries of Galileo and Copernicus, it was proven that it was the earth that revolved around the sun and that the world was round. At dahil dito, kasama na rin siyempre yung mga pagsasaliksik, ay nagsimula yung mga voyages. Kaya napakahalaga the trip of Magellan was the first circumnavigation of the world, because that is also the period of the missions. Matatandaan nung panahon ni Christopher Columbus, nagkaroon din ng question about yung pagsakop ng mga lupa, so that it was easy for them to justify kapag since nakita na nila na may mga lands to be discovered, madaling i-justify kapag yung lupa ay meron ng kapag wala pang nakatira. Pero pag wala pang nakatira, what is the justification? At then the juridical and canonical, yung pagtingin that the Pope was the arbiter, so that the kings of Spain and Portugal, which were the world powers then, they went to the Pope. At that time, it was Alexander VI. And he said, this is what we're going to do. So, for example, if this is the map, kunyari lang, ito ang mapa, we will draw a line. So, all that pertain to the west will be Spain's, and to the west, Portugal. This was later revised by the Treaty of Tordesillas. It is this context of patronatorial or padroado, and for the case of Portugal, so much so that what happened was it was the kings who financed the voyages, and one of the justifications of the conquest was also to bring the good news, because to evangelize, to preach the gospel, because that was the mentality of the time. Please understand that during those times, the concept of separation of church and state was not there yet. Yung mga the kings themselves considered themselves as protectors of the faith. Kaya nga, yung mga hari noon ay sila ang nagpapadala ng mga misyonero kasama yung mga sundalo. And of course, it was also this desire to conquer lands at the same time to preach the gospel. Kaya itong ating pagbabalik tanaw sa ating 500 years ay yung panahon din ng pagmimisyon na kung saan magkasama yung mga conquistador at saka yung mga misyonero. At kung ating babalikan yung first mass, first baptism, yan ay nangyari noong 1521. Pero yung mga susunod na voyages would come later. At yung 1521, wala pa dyan ng systematic evangelization. The systematic evangelization will come in the 1560s, 1570s, during the time of Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. And for Bicol, it was the Augustinians who came first to Bicol. They entered Masbate, Ticao, Burias, and then went into inland of the Bicol region. Mga Augustinians. So, ang mga unang mga misyoneran dumating sa atin were the Augustinians, meron din yung mga Franciscans, yung Dominicans, the Jesuits, and the Recollects. Sila yung mga misyonero, sila yung mga kasapi ng mga religious orders. Yun ang tinatawag nating Augustinians, Franciscans, Dominicans, and the Jesuits, and then later on the Recollects. At sa kanilang pagdating, isa sa mga kanilang ginawa is the organization of the pueblos. Kaya nga, kasama nung pagpunta ng mga misyonero is to what we call the reduction, no? Yung isang lugar na kung saan tinitipon nila yung mga tao, yung mga natives. Kaya makikita natin na yung mga pueblos were so designed na kung nasaan yung munisipyo, naandin dun yung simbahan, at naandin yung mga unang mga parish, parang schools. So it was to bring them together. Kaya ang isa sa mga unang contribution ng mga missionaries and the Spaniards were the creation of the pueblos. In one report of a Franciscan, these are, for example, the pueblos that were found. For example, in Camarines Norte, they speak of a particular Nabaylag, 1586, Daet, 1581, Paracale, 1581, Indan, 1581, Kapalongan, 1632, Mambulau, 1664. In Camarines Sur, we have Naga, 1578, Nabwa, 1578, Bula, 1578, Kipayo, 1578, Minalabag, 1580, Iriga, 1578, Milaor, 1579, Ligmanan, it was written 1580, Kanakman, 1578, Buhi, 1578, Lagunoy, 1580, Karamunan, 1687. I'm reading what was written in the report. San Fernando, 1579, Lupi, 1701, Goa, 1701, Calabanga, 1749, Magarao, 1750, Bato, 1753, Baaw, 1793, Kamaligan, 1795, Bombon, 1804, Pili, 1819, Tinambak, 1781, Siruma, 1687. And there is also, I will not go through the others, in Albay, in Sorsogon, and Burias. These were in the list of those that were of pueblos and parishes administered by the Franciscans. And yung systematic evangelization came with Legazpi, and Manila was elevated to a, by the way, the first bishop of Manila was in 1579 was Domingo de Salazar. After 16 years, on August 14, 1595, Manila. So, at the beginning, isa lang ang diocese sa buong Pilipinas. At ito ay tinatag noong 1579. After 15 years or 16 years, in 1595, ginawang archdiocese ang Manila at merong itinatag na 3 pang other dioceses. Ano itong 3 dioceses? Ito ay Nueva Segovia dyan sa north, Cebu sa south, at yung Bicol region kasama niyong Quezon provinces, ito ang Nueva Cáceres. At ang Nueva Cáceres ay kasama ang mga probinsya ng Camarines, kasama Camarines Norte, Albay, including the islands of Ticao, Masbate, Burias, and Catanduanes. The province of Tayabas, as far as including Lukban, and in the Contra Costa of Mauban up to Binangonan, Polillo, Baler, and Kasiguran. So yan yung extent nung kaya practically yung buong Bicol, pati yung Quezon part, papunta dito sa may gilid ng Binangonan, Polillo, Baler, Kasiguran, etc. hanggang dyan. So, itong 3 dioceses na ito ay mananatili hanggang, in fact, in the whole Spanish period, no? Hanggang 1898. Ang madadagdagan lamang ito ng isang diocese. Ibig sabihin, meron lang 4 na dioceses during the time of the Spanish period. Madadagdagan lang noong 1865 nang maitatag ang Haro. Kaya, noong buong Spanish period, na andyan lang ang Manila, Nueva Segovia sa north, Cebu sa south, Cáceres, Nueva Cáceres dito sa Kabikulan, and in 1865, yung Panay Island, dyan sa may Haro, ay naitatag ang ika-5 dioceses. Yung ibang ang dioceses are what we call ecclesiastical territories. Ito ay naitatag na yung mga sumusunod noong 1910, that is already during the American period. Ano yung mga naiambag o nagawa ng mga misyonero? Kapag ka nabanggit natin ang salitang praile, ang unang tumatatak sa ating isipan, karamihan sa atin ay sila yung mga abusive na mga Spaniards, si Padre Damaso, etc. Pero para sa ating kaalaman, sila ang naglayag mula sa Espanya and facing all the difficulties of travel sa iba't ibang pangkat, at sila ang nagtatag nga ng mga pueblos at ng mga parokya. Sa katunayan, nagkaroon after the First Synod of Manila ang isang tanong sa atin, bakit tayong Pilipinas sa tinagal-tagal ng paglalagi ng mga Espanyol ay hindi tayo nagsasalita ng Spanish? Sa Latin America, nagsasalita sila ng Spanish. Sapagkat dito, sa Pilipinas, in the 1582 Synod, ay nagkaroon ng agreement that the friars will try to learn the dialects they found in the Philippines. Kaya, kung ating titingnan, ang mga unang grammar books, dictionary ng ating mga dialects, ang nagsulat ay yung mga religious, yung mga missionaries. Isang halimbawa niyan, yung ating Vocabulario de la Lengua Bicol ay si Fray Marcos de Lisboa. At syempre, dinala din nila yung architecture. Sila ang nagpagawa, of course, syempre ang naggumawa mga Pilipino ng ating mga simbahan. Dinala nila ang education. Dinala nila yung literature and arts at tinuruan tayo. Pero tinatanggap natin na at during that time, not everybody was able to go to the schools. Nagtatag sila ng mga paaralan at ang isang kilala nating paaralan na matagal na ay ang Universidad de Santo Tomas. At ito nga ang isa sa pinakaunang universidad dito sa Asia by 1611. Meron din yung paaralan ng mga Jesuits, yung ngayon ay Ateneo, pero may panahon na ito ay nasara. Pero, for example, dito sa Bicol, ay naitatag din ang Seminario Conciliar de Nueva Cáceres. Noong 1700s, ito ay nasimulan at naging more systematic ito noong 18th century, lalong-lalo na noong 1865 nang dumating ang mga Vincentians. At sa panahong din iyon, mga 1868, ay binuksan din ang Colegio de Santa Isabel. At napakalaki ng nagawa at that time ng obispo ni si Bishop Francisco Gainza sapagkat nais niyang ayusin, systematize ang paghuhubog ng mga pari at ganoon din na makapagbukas ng mga paaralan sa mga parokya. So kaya yung concept natin na parang mga abusado ang mga praile, ito ay influence nung yung pagsusulat nung time ng propaganda, nung malapit ng revolusyon, sapagkat ito ay mayroon ng influence din nung mga nag-aral sa Europa. At hindi naman natin ikinakaila na mayroon ding mga abuses at mayroon ding mga hindi kanais-nais na siya nang ang nagdala sa pag nais na maging independent tayo. So, kaya pati na yung mga pananim na galing sa Mexico, pati na ang ating pagkain is very much influenced by the Spanish period. So much so na kapag tiningnan nga natin ang ating mga kagamitan sa mesa, di ba? Lahat niya na Spanish. Plato, kutsara, tenedor, platito, baso. And there is much of influence of the Spanish period. And in fact, kapag tiningnan natin, naiba tayo dito sa Asia in terms of culture. So kaya, meron noong tinatawag na religious political framework called Patronato Real, the royal patronage. So yung pagdating dito ng mga misyonero ay through the kings of Spain and Portugal. And it was through the nuncio in Madrid that the affairs in the Philippines were being managed. In fact, hindi talaga direkta to the Vatican ang pakikipag-ugnayan noon. At yung panahong iyon ay wala yung tinatawag nating separation of church and state. Kaya nga, yung ating ding mga simbahan, some of them are partly or in whole financed by the royal treasury. No? Galing sa Espanya yung pera ng pagpapagawa ng ibang mga simbahan. Halimbawa, yung dyan simbahan ng katedral sa Naga. At yung mga missionaries were heroic in the sense that, yung paglalayag lang ay hindi madali. At, 1500s, siguro to be realistic, not everyone would think they would be able to go back to Spain. So that itself is heroic. So malaki ang impluensya sa ating kultura. Ang akala ng mga tao sa Europe noon, ang the whole world was Europe. But when these voyages happened, they found, nakita nila, ang India, iba ang salita, iba ang kultura, ang China, ang Japan. And then there came the consciousness na there are other peoples of different languages. In fact, yung circumnavigation of the world, it can be considered, well, in our terms, as one of the first globalization. Talagang, di ba, globalization. It was a meeting of cultures so that this contact between cultures has affected our history, our culture, the way we live. We now live in a very multiple, diverse world. No? Hindi na lang isang kultura ang ating natatagpuan o nakakasalamuha, but very diverse. But that the 500 years of Christianity is, a meeting of cultures. At hindi man lang ang kultura ng Espanya o ng Mexico, pati na rin ang kultura ng karating pook natin ng China and other even the Dutch, passed by, and other countries. So that ang ating pagbabalik tanaw ay para sa atin pag-unawa din kung sino tayo, kung ano na ang ating narating. Isang malaking contribution certainly is, education. Ang mga unang eskwela ay sinimulan ng mga religious, yung mga eskwelahan, mga beaterio, at yun na nga, yung mga grammar books, the books on literature ay napakalaking bagay para sa atin. Kaya isa sa insights natin is not everything during the Spanish period was bad. In fact, napakaraming bagay ang naitulong sa atin at naidala sa atin. And when we look at it from the point of view of culture, that is enrichment of our culture, and also not only cultures, even politics, no, with what is good and what is bad, and that is still it is also part na yung pagbabalik tanaw din natin ngayon ay kailangan din nating tingnan yung tinatawag ng isang theologian, the rational sphere of understanding, human understanding. Ibig sabihin, umuunlad din ang ating pag-unawa, ang ating pag-iisip. Kaya totoo namang it has not always been easy, the meeting of cultures, the meeting of peoples. Siyempre, merong battles, merong alitan, some of them were peaceful, some of them were not. And there were evangelization at certain times was easy. There are other times, it was not very easy. Like for example, in the experience in Latin America, that was not very easy. But the missionaries learned the lessons in Latin America so much so that they employed the method in a way of learning the culture, learning the dialects, learning the language of the Philippines, of the Filipinos. Dito naman sa atin, yung ating diocese ng Nueva Cáceres encompass the whole of Bicol region. And again, sabi ko na nga, kasama ang Quezon. And eventually, in 1910, nang nahiwalay na ang Quezon, naging ano na lamang siya, purely Bicol region. But the bishop had to manage the whole of Bicol region. In the Franciscans, ang Bicol ay naging Franciscan territory. Sapagkat nung dumating din itong mga religious, they are also, there are different groups. Pinaghati-hati din itong mga religious. So there was a decree na yung mga Augustinians will work doon the Dominicans will work on the north, yan sa mga Ilocos. Kaya maraming simbahan dyan ay gawa ng mga Dominicans. Yung Augustinians na andito sa may Cebu, yung mga Jesuits na andito sa may Mindanao at sa may Samar, Leyte. At yun namang ang buong Bicol, kasama na itong mga parts ng Katagalugan, ay mga Franciscans. Kaya pag tinignan natin yung ibang mga simbahan dito, lalo na kung dun sa iba, meron, dito wala akong ganong nakita sa Camarines Norte, yung may Franciscan insignia na mayroong dalawang kamay na nakaganyan. That is the Franciscan insignia. Wala pang mga paring sekular noon. Late na dumating, nagkaroon ng mga paring sekular. At nagkaroon din ng difficulty. Nagkaroon ng difficulty itong yung tinatawag nating secularization. Sapagkat nang dumating din dito yung mga Espanyol, sila yung mga religious, eventually nang nagkakaroon na ng mga pari na secular, sila na yung mga Pilipino. Pero isa sa mga difficulties noon, hindi kaagad nagiging parish priest yung mga Filipino at in a sense they were second class. But ah, kaya yung parang naging alitan ng religious and secular, nagkaroon ng racial undertones. Ibig sabihin, yung mga Espanyol, yung mga religious, kami ay Pilipino. So nagkaroon din ito ng parang, it now became the Filipino against the Spanish. Kaya nga, doon din sa Cavite, doon sa, before the Cavite Mutiny, ang isa sa mga sinisi ay mga secular priest. But dahan-dahan nagkaroon din ng yung desire for nationalism. Sa ibang lugar, nagkaroon sila ng tinatawag na national church, like sa England. Si Henry VIII, sinabi niya, ako simula ngayon, nung hindi pinayagan yung kanyang divorce, sinabi na ako na ang magiging head of the church in England. So, doon nagsimula ang Anglican Church. At ito ay paghihiwalay sa Roma. Nagkaroon din ng ganyang desire dito sa atin, magkaroon ng independent church. That's the Iglesia Filipina Independiente, na noon ang ang naging head ay si Aglipay. That was to have a national church. Ang isa sa naging significant dyan sa atin ay si Jorge Barlin. At that time, who was a priest here. They were inviting him to be their bishop, but he did not agree. According to the to the accounts, he said, I prefer just to be a sweeper rather than to be the head of your church. Eventually, ito si Bishop Barlin will become the first Filipino bishop. And that is very significant because that was about May 1906, 1905. Parang hindi pa kinikilala yung mga, kumbaga, Pilipino, yung galing ng Pilipino. They were considered second class. But with Barlin being elevated to the episcopacy, ito ay pagkilala sa kakayahan ng mga Pilipino. And after that, some other Filipinos became bishops. So, itong ating pagbabalik tanaw sa ating 500 years of Christianity ay invitation din sa atin na balikan muli ang ating kasaysayan. Hindi natin mababanggit lahat dito ngayon, pero sapat na para sa akin na makita din natin na hindi lahat hindi the Spanish period and the Christianization ng ating of the Philippines was not an evil thing, not everything was perfect, and hanggang ngayon mayroong debate whether was it Christianization or colonization. Well, that is part of what happened in history, but that is certainly that is what happened in history, and we cannot deny the fact, hindi natin may kakaila, na ang dumating sa atin ay ang pananampalatayang Kristiyano. Not in the abstract. Siyempre, wala namang religion na abstract. We've received the faith through people, through missionaries, and we receive it also in our context as Filipinos. And that is, yung ating paglago sa pananampalataya at paglago bilang mga mamamayan, citizens, nagpapatuloy. Ang ating pagbabalik tanaw sa ikalimang daon ng Kristyanismo ay hindi lamang nakatuon sa mahalaga siyempre yung pagdating, mahalaga din yung unang misa at ang unang binyag. Subalit itong kabuuan ng 500 years of the presence of Christianity invites us to look again, to continue to search for the truth, to continue to understand our history, and at the same time, to face the challenges ahead of us. At ang ating pagdiriwang ay nataon na nandito ang pandemic. So much so that we are also, for us believers, we are to face the future, face the present challenges by using or by taking advantage of the gifts we have received, particularly the gift of faith. Faith in God, faith in the church, and also through the mechanisms, through the life of the church that we have received na ating namulatan, at alam din naman natin na hindi ito perfect, pero katulad ng sinasabi natin, ako as a believer and part of the church, it is a pilgrim church. It is a pilgrim church on the way. A church that is called towards dialogue, no? To dialogue towards listening. So, maraming salamat po sa pagkakataong ito, at sana itong munting pagbabahagi ay may naibigay sa atin ng konting liwanag, hopefully, insight, so that we would understand and this celebration and also appreciate what has been, without certainly glozing over what was not good during those years, what needed reform, but that is the travail of every community, every person, every country. Maraming salamat po.